Hello, my friends. This is Pete Torre, and I am the creator and founder of the Pete Torre Show. And welcome to episode 14. Before we move on, let me thank my sponsors: Jackson West Medical Center, Best Practices Title, and Clutch Burger. My purpose, as it is on every single program, is to inform, educate, and inspire you to take your business and your life to that next level. My guests today include Steve Siebold, best-selling author of a multitude of books and the CEO of Siebold Success Network. And my second guest is Raymond Torre, the chairman of Live Like Bella. Now a little bit about my first guest. Since 1997, as the CEO of Siebold Success Network, Steve Siebold has helped Fortune 100 companies increase sales through his flagship training program, Mental Toughness University. He is a co-author with Tom Matthews of the #1 best-selling finance book in the U.S., How Money Works. He is a former professional tennis player and national coach. His sports clients include Andre Agassi, the Boston Celtics, the Miami Marlins, and Ohio State University Buckeyes. Steve's work has been featured on every major television network in the U.S. and Canada, and his interviews and articles have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Fortune Magazine, Forbes, USA Today, and hundreds of other publications around the world. So now let's sit back and let's tune into my conversation with Steve Siebold. All right, it's my pleasure to bring to the Pete Torre Show now Steve Siebold, who is doing, I think, interview number 142 today in the last 15 months. Steve, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Pete.
Steve is as I mentioned before we brought him on here, a tremendous speaker and someone that has done so much to help people in so many different ways professionally. We're going to take most of our talk today on the book that he's written with Tom Matthews, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, which I just love that because it goes right to the point there. So Steve, let's talk a little bit about the book, what motivated you and Tom to do this, and really what's pushing you forward on this.
Yeah, well, Tom Matthews was a longtime client of mine with our mental toughness seminars and a big purchaser of my books over the years and that type of thing in the financial industry. And he's been a financial expert for 40 years. And so we got together about 2.5 years ago and decided to do this project. He had the idea to train the middle class, to give the middle class a chance at financial training where, the big financial firms, the investment firms really ignore the little guy. I mean, if you have less than $300,000 or $400,000 to invest, most of the financial firms won't even talk to you. And some of them won't talk to you unless you have $1 million or $2 million. Mm-hmm. And so what is it for how does that work out for someone making $50,000 or $60,000 or even $100,000 a year? Where do they go? Well, the truth is they don't go anywhere. They don't get any help. They don't get any support. And so they don't know how money works. So Tom had this idea to write this really simple book that a 14-year-old kid could understand. That was the goal of writing it, which is the reason it's a small book, but it took a long time to write just because we had to simplify everything because we actually wanted people to understand it. And the truth of it is, Pete, is that the financial industry, which again, I've been a vendor to for 20 plus years as a speaker all around. I mean, you named the major firm. We pretty much worked there at some point over 20 years. They really don't want people to know how money works. They want people to be kind of ignorant. Their biggest issue really, and I've heard this from major VPs of the big firms, is transparency. They don't want people to know where the fees are, how the actual products work, what the actual return is, what it's costing them, how inflation impacts it. You fill in the blank. They don't want people to know because the less we know, the richer they get. And so Tom and I are trying to offset this for the little guy, the rest of us, the 99% of us that aren't super rich, and help them understand how money works so they can take care of their finances and have a better life.
That is, I do an additional talk show called Blockchain Talk. And what we are talking about there is the decentralization of information with that blockchain technology. where it provides the regular guy, the common person, opportunities that otherwise are not there for them because it's limited to the ones that have the money, that have the resources. And this is another example you're talking about right there, how that middle class, that the regular guy is being left out in so many different ways in their lives, from opportunities to grow their business to opportunities to really understand their own finances. And in the not knowing, you can't really get ahead. You're kind of stuck, and you're at the beck and call of investors or financial planners that are just like you said, infred for themselves. And I think that is we kind of know about this, but when this thing comes out, it's more alarming than ever.
It really is. It really hurts the average person who's working hard, who's trying to put their, food on the table for their family and put their kids through college and all the rest of it. And that's 99% of the population. And if people listening, if they're not the little guy, they were the little guy probably at some point, unless they inherited their money, which most people haven't. So that we're trying to level the playing field as much as we possibly can. And so far the book has been very successful. So we're pretty happy about it.
Now, obviously, it's been very popular, and we alluded to at the very beginning. You've been interviewed several times on television the last 14, 15 months. Obviously, there's something very important in the book and the message. What have you heard from folks that have purchased the books that are getting the benefits of the work that you and Tom have done?
The biggest thing they say, and I think the reason we've been on all these TV shows and radio shows and, all these articles and stuff that have been written about it, is I think the reason, Pete, is honestly, it's because it's so simple. It's just something people read it. You can read the book in about an hour, and literally a 14-year-old kid, we get emails every day from people saying, oh, my son or my daughter's, 12 years old or 14 years old, and they want to know what to do with their allowance now that they understand the time value of money or compound interest or Rule 72 or something like that. And they want to know what they can do with their money now. So they actually understand it. And I think people feel smarter about it. Whereas most financial books, just being in the industry for a long time, as a vendor, they're written for other financial people. I think they try to impress each other with all ththese complex financial instruments and these exotic investments, which are kind of impressive if you can understand the darn things. The problem is most of us can't. And so, unless you're someone that builds those products, it's hard to really. It's like the old saying is on Wall Street is if you can explain derivatives, you don't really understand derivatives. It's just kind of nuts. But we're talking about basic things. So I think the reason it's popular is because it is simple and people are implementing it, and they don't feel stupid when they read the book. And they're not stupid; they just need the basics. And I think that's why it's become popular.
The feeling of empowerment. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like feeling that you're when your confidence goes up, that you can understand something, that you're taking charge of your life because you feel empowered. And now you can look around and make better and wiser decisions when it comes to your finances. I used to be in the business 11, 12 years, a financial advisor and planner and the insurance side, but did some other things. And the thing that I always recognize and always said to me time again, the most important thing in our life is our health, right? The second most important thing is our financial health. Yeah. And if, with our health, medical health, we're not doctors, right? But we understand some basics there. And the doctors are there to help us and guide us. With the finances, you really don't have that. I think that this is a fantastic resources for the millions that you mentioned that are out there that are not, Harvard grads or anything like that, so on and so on. So this is terrific. Tell us a little bit about the financial literacy campaign.
Well, this is one of the ideas Tom and I had from the beginning, along with Andy Horner, who did all the graphics and the characters in the book. There's like animated cartoon characters. And so the three of us kind of put this thing together over time. And the one of the ideas was, the big idea was really to go out and talk to corporations, and not just big corporations, but small companies through large companies, as well as churches and schools, and give the book away to the employees or to the parishioners or to the students, and then provide little classes, little 30-minute classes. This is what we're starting to do around the country, and for free, all complimentary, and just so they understand the very basics of the book. And we're not even selling it to them, we're giving it to them. The campaign's paying all the expenses. And just to give them the basics, because we really believe that we wrote the book with this in mind, that if you read this book, if you're the average person with the average amount of money and you read this book, you would never really have to read another financial book as long as you were alive. As long as you didn't, if you have a ton of money, then you probably need to study a little bit more, some more advanced books. But for the rest of, again, for the rest of us that are never going to have a ton of money, it's probably the only book you really never need to read. But people do need to know these basic things. And we can teach these things to companies. And there's 125 million people at work right now in their jobs, and most of them don't know anything about money. The companies are not teaching them about money. They teach the executives about money, and they handle their money, but they don't handle the line workers' money. They don't help them very often. It's very rare, at least. And so we're trying to do that. We're going to the churches, the schools, and the companies, and giving it away, and trying to just give them the basics so they have a fighting chance of making it.
What's your vision from all of this in terms of helping the 20 million individuals learn more about their money? I mean, what do you see? What do you hope that the payoff is going to be at the end of the day?
Eradicating financial illiteracy. I mean, that's a big, that's a pretty big goal. But yeah. I mean, 100 years ago, most people were reading illiterate. They couldn't read, and now most people can read. So, I mean, it's doable. I don't know if we can do it in our lifetime, but we can certainly build an army of people to go into these organizations and do it, and give these people a chance. And hopefully it spreads and we get more people to help us and that type of thing. And we're building a team of people to do that as well.
Right. And there's nothing that, and it's a great legacy for you and Tom to leave as well. That what you guys did impacted folks in such a positive way, and it gave them a fighting chance to live a life of financial independence, because at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants, is financial independence, and not have to worry about what their money is going to do for them. Are they going to have enough when they retire? So on and so on. Are they going to have enough for the days that rainy day adage that we hear so many times? God forbid we have another pandemic. Have the resources, the money put away if you're laid off. All those types of things. I'm sure that the book took a whole different level, in terms of the sales of it and all that, because of the pandemic. I would imagine so, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess we'll never know. Well, I guess maybe we will know after this is all over. We'll see how it goes. But right. Yeah, the book sold over 500,000 copies in the first 15 months, and yeah, I think that might have been part of it. Maybe people were home and they were trying to bone up on their financial knowledge, hopefully, and hopefully it'll continue. Again, we're trying to really make a dent. And I mean, I've been in the book business a long time, and I've sold a few books over the years, for sure. But this one is different because we're really on a mission to eliminate, as you said. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think your health is first, but money's a pretty close second, just because it's like blood to the body. It's not everything, but you can't really live without it.
You can't live. It's like Les Brown says, it's right up there with oxygen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, I wanted to just tap into one of my favorite books of all time, and Secrets of the World Class, Turning Mediocrity into Greatness. I mean, Mental Toughness University. I love that stuff, Steve. I just love it. I eat it up. The book is fantastic. It opens up by talking about the 3 different types of mindset: poverty class, middle class, and world class. And it's such an interesting read. And I know that you did a lot of years of research to put this book together. I from my perspective, I see this clearer than ever what's happened the last year or so. These 3 levels of mindsets are crystal clear. I mean, crystal clear, from the world class that, they've had to repurpose themselves and repivot because of COVID. The middle class is kind of in the middle of all of this and trying to hold on to their jobs and survive. And then the poverty class that wants everything handed out to them. Okay. Right. Do you look back at, I know you've written a lot of books, but this one in particular, has that kind of like made a different impact on you personally, especially in the last 14, 15 months?
Oh, definitely. I mean, and that Secrets book is the gift book version. It's based on another book I wrote years before called The 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World
That's
Class.
right.
And yeah, Secrets is the gift book version. A company out of Chicago bought the rights to the gift book years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. And they created that little book, but it's based on the 177 book. And yeah, absolutely, I have. I've watched. I've monitored myself very carefully over the 15 months or whatever the heck it's been since the shutdown. And I think I need to grow a lot more than I thought I did. I thought I was better at some of these things than I actually am with the isolation and everything. And I think when you're moving so fast, I've been running around the world for 25 years, and all of a sudden, I haven't been on a plane in like 6 months. I mean, that's just unbelievable to me. I've traveled like crazy for so long, and it's really different. All of a sudden you slow down, and you've actually got to take more time. And I'm not running all the time, and I think I need to improve a lot more than I thought I did. I think I thought I was better, than mentally than I actually am. So I have some more improving to do. I got to read my own book, and it's easier to write them, Pete, than it is to do them. So.
I hear you. It's great to talk about things, but are you doing them yourself? Are
Exactly,
you living by your words?
And that's really the test. I need more help. Yeah,
I think we all do, my friend. We all do. Hey, Steve, thank you so much for being with us. Again, the book is the one we've been talking about today for the most part, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. Okay. And it's a number one best-selling finance book in the U.S. in the last 15 months or so. Co-author is Tom Matthews. So, Steve, thank you so much, and I look forward to bringing you back to the show soon.
Thanks so much, Pete. I appreciate it.
Take care of yourself. Bye-bye now.
Yeah.
Very big thank you to Steve Siebold for being with us today and providing some great news for the middle class here in the U.S. My second guest, Raymond Rodriguez Torres. He's the chairman of the board of directors for Live Like Bella. This is, of course, a childhood cancer foundation, which was inspired by the passing away of little Bella. What Raymond is going to share with you is a very sad yet uplifting message for all of us. Let's sit back and listen to my conversation with Raymond. Okay, with us here today is Raymond Rodriguez Torres, chairman of Live Like Bella. How are you, my friend?
Very well. Thanks so much for having me, Pete.
Thank you for coming on board. And your story is a very inspirational one. It's heartwarming and taking a tragedy and converting that into such a positive force in our community and helping others that are experiencing what you and your family went through about 8 years ago. So my hat's off to you and everybody, in the organization. For the benefit of our viewers, can you share with us what the organization is about and really, obviously, what's inspired you, what drives you to do what you do?
Well, thank you. I think the story of my family and the story of Live Like Bella may not be that much different than many of us. I grew up in Miami, studied in Miami. And like any young couple, we were incredibly excited at the birth of our first daughter, our first child, any child. Sure. And in our case, her name was Bella. And in 2002, I had the privilege of delivering on a promise, which was in my family, we had only had one girl who was my eldest sister, who unfortunately died in Cuba, where my parents are from, at 2 days of age. And ever since then, we only had boys. We're very blessed to have boys. But I was the baby of the family. And as the baby of the family, I wanted to deliver, especially for my mother, another girl. And boy, did I. And we were excited. And her name was Bella. Unfortunately, Bella's birth was very complicated. And at the time that she was born, she had low oxygen at birth. Mm-hmm. And so Bella was born with developmental delays and a mental handicap, which made her early formative years challenging for us because my wife and I so desperately wanted a normal child. And we knew what it was like to go to birthday parties and be made fun of and be marginalized when Bella didn't understand the certain rules to games that she was playing with other children, and her speech and her comprehension were very delayed specifically. But being optimistic people, which we were, said, who better than us to tackle a situation like this? Thank God I had excellent employment as an executive in the pharmaceutical industry for more than 21 years. My wife was a special education teacher, and my father, who's my best friend in the world, is a pediatric cardiologist. And he was the chief of Miami Children's Hospital, Nicholas Children's Hospital for 20 years. So who better than us with all of those resources to tackle some minor developmental delays and help Bella close her developmental gaps? And so our life was very busy. We were in speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and Bella was improving until the summer of 2007 when things would change forever. And I was traveling and I called home and I asked my wife, Shauna, how the night had been. And I sensed in her voice a terror and a fear that I had never heard before. She told me that throughout the night, Bella had slept very uncomfortably and kept getting up to go to this little Cinderella princess table that we had in the kitchen. And as she get up and kept walking there, she kept falling to the floor. And by morning, she was completely paralyzed. So again, out of optimism, I told my wife, honey, I'm sure this is nothing serious. I'm sure perhaps it's some sort of virus that's temporarily entered her spinal fluid. And of course, the next question was, have you called my dad? And my parents live very close to us. And immediately she was rushed to Nicholas Children's Hospital. And after 4 days of a battery of tests, when we had to accept the reality that we were going to be coming home in a wheelchair, and we had an idea that was a neurological disorder that had come upon her, we decided to do one more MRI before leaving. And when we were about to finish that MRI, I remember being seated next to my father in the waiting room of the very colorful chairs at Nicholas Children's Hospital. And I was paged over some loudspeakers to go and sign some waivers in radiology, which I had become accustomed over the course of that tragic week. And as I got up and started walking, my father got up and started walking with me. And as we turned the corner that we were out of my wife Shauna's line of sight, my father turned to me and he was crying. And I had never yet in my life seen my father cry. And he said, I have something to tell you, but I don't know how to tell you this. Jeez. She has cancer. She has an enormous tumor around her spine, and that's the reason why she's paralyzed. In addition to that, Bella was later found to have cancer in her jaw, her shoulder, her rib, her hip, her knee, her foot, her left hand, and her brain. And at the age of 4, Bella was officially diagnosed with stage 4, group 4, alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a very rare aggressive childhood cancer. Her prognosis was that she would never walk again, and she had a few weeks, perhaps a few months to live. And I can assure you, Pete, that as a parent, there is nothing that can prepare you for words such as those.
No.
Yet as difficult and as tragic as that time was, and what we were facing, what we did not know was the lessons of faith, extraordinary strength, and courage that Bella, a little girl who was marginalized since she was little, a little girl who could not comprehend so many things, would teach us. Bella battled her disease valiantly for 6 years. She ran, she jumped, she walked miraculously when it was never thought possible. And she started a movement to live like Bella, which for her in her innocence meant to serve others. And so today, while I can say that I am a father that's a member of a club that I would never want anyone to be a part of, I held my little girl in her first breath on earth and in her very last. I can say that her life was a remarkable gift. And I know that she's more alive than she's been in her entire existence. And what we've done with Live Like Bella is to help her friends, which are the other children battling cancer. Today, Live Like Bella operates in 36 countries around the world and every state across the United States. And we will surpass this year $20 million made possible for cancer research, in addition to all of the assistance we provide for families. And so what I said 8 years ago, last week, when I had the privilege of giving the eulogy at my daughter's funeral, was that when you read in the obituaries that Bella Rodriguez Torres died, don't believe it, because she's more alive than she's been in her entire existence. And the proof of that has been in what's happened since.
My friend, I don't know how to respond to that. That is a very sobering, touching story, and to see this, what this foundation, this organization has done, it is definitely guided by a special spirit. You and I that are here on earth still, can do only so much. There needs to be a spirit, a driving force that keeps you, your wife, and the whole organization going. Because I'm sure, never being in your shoes, and I, to think about that, I can't comprehend that. It is. I'm sure you have some days when you're just full of energy and inspired, and other days where you still get this real reminder of what happened. And I'm sure that that's a part of your life that's never going to change. Some days are better than others. but it's her life that is the driving force and has allowed you to do what you do, and now helping so many other families that are going through the same thing. My girlfriend has a friend of hers has a 4-year-old that was diagnosed. I can't remember the kind of cancer, but already gone through chemo, some extensive chemo, and they're going to be finding out today, tomorrow, if it's been taken care of. They don't know right now. And seeing that up front is very, very tough. Very, very tough. I mean, when cancer hits at any age, it's never a good thing. But when you see it in kids, with their life ahead of them there, it also creates, I'm sure that you went hours and hours saying to yourself, why?
Yeah,
Why?
absolutely. And in fact, one of the blessings I've had in my life is to publish a book about Bella's life, which all of the proceeds are donated to charity and to research, which is entitled "Why Not Me?"
That's right.
Because so often in life, prior to all of this, I would, for small things, I'd say, "Why me?" Right? Whether it was I'm late to an appointment, there's traffic on the Palmetto, or my 4-year-old's paralyzed and has stage 4 cancer. Why me? Right? And I've learned that if we're capable of taking stock of the people that are purposely put in our life and the unique set of talents and skills that we're blessed with, if we're able to look at it through that lens, then we can look at it and say, why not me? And we can choose to walk in victory. But it is indeed a choice. There is indeed a great sense of injustice, particularly when it comes to pediatric cancer.
Yeah.
If I had a penny for every time I heard, I just don't understand, with so many bad people in the world, how could it be that an innocent 4-year-old child be diagnosed with such a horrible illness? There is no response to that. At least I don't have it now. What I do know is that the definition of courage can be seen and beheld at a pediatric cancer center without question. And in Bella's case specifically, what was once such a challenge, which was her developmental delays, later became such an enormous blessing, because Bella could never comprehend the severity of her illness. Mm-hmm. So she was innocent. It was funny. We'd hear, oftentimes you see adults and they'll say, no, because so-and-so was diagnosed with cancer, and they'll almost whisper it.
Almost at a whisper, yeah.
And Bella would hear that and say, cancer? I have cancer. Kind of like saying, today's Monday. What's the big deal? Right? And so there was beauty in that innocence. But in addition to that, there was a desire to serve others. What was incredible on so many different occasions, what bothered Bella was not what she had to endure. And Bella had to endure surgeries that opened her cranium and her spine and her abdomen and just horrors. What bothered Bella was not what she had to endure. What bothered Bella was what her friends had to go through. Mm-hmm. And that is in many respects what inspired Live Like Bella. The night that Bella took her last breath, one of the things that just moved us immensely and really made this viral was that during the finals, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, on the night that Bella passed, wrote #Live Like Bella on their shoes.
Yeah.
And the movement went viral. And I'll never forget, Pete, I had never been on Instagram until the day after Bella died. And I remember seeing children throughout the world who didn't even perhaps comprehend or speak English writing #Live Like Bella on their shoes simply because they were emulating what they saw on television. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, it started a movement to think about helping others, which is what it meant to live like Bella. And I saw those same signs and those same pockets of children 8 years ago, again last week, when we buried Bella, where one of the most touching moments that I can remember is as the procession of her funeral to her burial took her casket from the church to the cemetery. There was pockets of children on the sidewalks running after the hearse to touch it with signs that said, "Live like Bella." I will never forget that. I can never stop being grateful for that. And I can never stop being grateful for people that have said, we're going to help you, Raymond. We're going to help in Bella's memory to help other children, which is what Bella wanted.
I mean, how can you not want to get involved? Because again, it's her outlook on life and what you just said right now. It's really about, at the end of the day, it's about others. I mean, we all go through our stuff, but if we can focus on others, what they're going through, it just really, it's you think about it, you say, wow, this is what humanity is and should be about. is about living the best you can. And if you're going through hardship, be able to say, yeah, I'm going through stuff right now, but how can I take this to help others? And just this whole way that she lived, and what drives you guys every day is allowing you to be that conduit, that instrument to help other families that are going through that. Because unless you're in those shoes, like you guys were, you can't really, you don't really understand. You can just try to do the best you can there. Before we wrap it up, I know that you mentioned that the fundraising has been very significant. Do you know how many families you've been able to help go through this whole process of having a child with cancer?
It's thousands upon thousands of families now, which is a figure that I wish wasn't as large as it is.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we're able to stand with them, right? So Live Like Bella does three things, if you would, three lines of service. We fund research. We do that two ways, through our own fundraising, and we also have an incredible partnership with the state of Florida called the Live Like Bella Initiative, where $5 million each year in perpetuity, primarily from the taxes of the cigarettes sold throughout the state, go into a fund called the Live Like Bella Initiative that can only and exclusively be used for pediatric cancer research. That only exists in Florida now, and this is something that we want to take nationwide because I think it would be very significant. The second thing we do is what we call in-treatment support. When there's a family undergoing cancer treatment, usually when there's one child, one parent, if not both of them, will have to stop working. And so the bills compile very, very quickly, whether it's basic necessities, electricity, transportation, co-pays at hospitals and pharmacies. Live Like Bella pays all of those in-treatment support services. And the last thing we do, Pete, which is very difficult, especially and particularly for my wife and I, is that we pay for what's called memorial services. So anywhere in the world where a child dies of cancer, Live Like Bella will pay for the headstone, burial, or funerals to cover those expenses. And while it's very difficult to do, it's something that I'm very proud to be able to stand with those families at that very painful and particular moment. Because you and I can prepare for our children to have a plan when we go that they don't have to bear that expense. But there is nothing that works in the inverse. So not only does it go against the chronological action of life to bury your child, but in addition to that, it's very expensive at that particular moment.
Sure.
And so I'm glad that Live Like Bella can stand with those families and assist them at that horrible moment as well.
I remember my father passed away of lung cancer about 11 years ago. He was running in his late 80s, and remember, a good friend of the family says, this is the way it should be, where a parent goes first, because the other way around is it's you can't try to comprehend it. So again, my prayers will continue to go to you and your family, because I'm sure the pain is always going to be there, but that pain is a driving force, and you have turned it into something incredibly good for everyone else that's going through it, and someday we'll go through this horrible situation again. So, God bless you and everybody at the organization. How can the viewers get involved and find out more?
Well, definitely on all social media platforms. If you visit @Live Like Bella, you can learn more about what's going on. We're particularly very excited. Last week we announced that Bella's Ball is back, so it'll be September 25th. Last year we couldn't have Bella's Ball because of social distancing and the pandemic. I would encourage everyone to look online and look at the videos of years past. It's a combination of gala, award show, concert, and you will never forget seeing some of the children there on stage enjoying it. And also you can visit livelikebella.org to learn more about the history of the organization, what we do, and how to get involved. We'd love to have volunteers. Raymond,
we'll be an ambassador for you to get the word out there for sure. You can count on that.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. God bless you and your family.
God bless you. Live Like Bella.
You got it. Okay, great. Thank you so much to Raymond Rodriguez Torres from Live Like Bella, who shared, as you saw right now, a very heartwarming, inspirational message for all of us here. Thank you, my friends, for being with me here today, as you always do. Your comments, your feedback are really helping us make sure that we are on our game to help you to fulfill the purpose that I shared with you at the beginning of the show today. I'm going to invite you to join me and every week on this program. Again, it's shown on Facebook page, my Facebook page, Pete Della Torre, and that YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Before we leave for today, I'm going to share with you once again, have a vision for tomorrow. Dream the big dreams. Never stop dreaming, my friends. Yet, keep an eye on today, because it is what you do today and the actions that you take, all right, are going to lead to that dream that you're hoping to accomplish down the road. Take care of yourselves. God bless.